How's it going, guys? My name's Shane, and welcome back to the Horror Basement and another installment of the classic horror review series. Today we'll be talking about Attack of the Giant Leeches from 1959. And despite this movie coming in at a scant 62 minutes in total, the film actually managed to have two plots running through. And before we get to the main plot, I'll describe the interesting one. So the film takes place in this bayou town out in the sticks. Like there's a bunch of side characters doing bad fake Creole accents, and the grocery store slash hangout spot in this town is run by a big fat dude named Dave, and Dave has a really hot wife named Liz, and the actress that played Liz was actually a Playboy cover model earlier in 1959 before they started filming on this. And of course, Liz is married to Dave essentially for the money and the sense of stability, but she is actually canoodling behind Dave's back with his friend Cal. Whenever he goes out to run errands or whatever, she sneaks away with Cal. And not long into the movie, Dave ends up catching them kind of making out on a blanket out in the swamp, and chases them through the swamp with a shotgun, where he backs them into the water and is about to let them go, but then they're attacked by the giant leeches, as the title would have you assume. Now, the giant leeches in this movie look kind of like a mix between Patrick Star from SpongeBob and like shadow people made out of plastic trash bags. But they are the titular villain of the film, and trying to stop them and also attempt to save the people they abduct from their like subterranean cave in the swamp is the main character of the movie, Steve. Now, Steve's a game warden, so he's part cop, part like environmentalist who wants to preserve the habitat, and he has a do-nothing love interest character named Nan, and she doesn't really do anything over the course of the movie. And Nan's dad is a doctor, and his name is Doc. And his plan to deal with the giant leeches, which not only killed Cal and Liz, but also abducted a bunch of the hillbilly background characters who are messing around in the swamp. Doc's plan is to just drop a bunch of dynamite into the swamp and blow everything up. And Cal is, that's obviously illegal, and claims that he's going to arrest Doc for it, but of course, they end up using the dynamite in the end to kill the creatures anyway, and presumably everybody is still getting along at the end. But not before Steve and, I guess, one of his old army buddies or Navy buddies from back in the day, whose name I didn't write down, just this other dude shows up, and they put scuba gear on and go down into the swamp to fight the giant leeches. And now, in the beginning of the movie, before we get to the stuff with Liz and Cal and Dave, there is a poacher that lives out in the swamp that initially sees the giant leech for the first time and shoots it with a .44 like 6 times. So it's never really explained adequately in the movie why bullets can't hurt the creatures, but then when Steve and his buddy go down there, they're like stabbing it with knives and shooting it with harpoon guns, and that seems to be wounding the creatures. So they go down there and they fight the creatures and wound them. And it turns out all the bodies that they were keeping in the cave to, suck on for nutrients are all dead. So Steve relents to Doc's wishes and they end up putting a bunch of dynamite down into the water, and huge explosion. All the leeches float to the surface, and it's explained by Doc that it was probably nuclear radiation from space shuttle launches that take place close to the swamp that caused the leeches to become giant and or attack. So if that sounds like not a lot of movie, you'd be right. It's not that. It's, barely qualifies as a feature film. And one of the issues, well, there's a lot of issues I had with the movie, but first I will, while I was writing this, like I said, short movie, not a whole lot to talk about, so I just started entertaining myself by writing down alternate titles, because the giant leeches do not do a lot of attacking in this movie, so I figured I'd give it a more apt title. Like, for instance, Attack of the Dudes Struggling to Maneuver in Plastic Monster Suits, Attack of the Boring Main Plot, Attack of the Subpar Acting, Video, and Sound Quality, Attack of the Bad Fake Creole Accents, and of course, at the very end, Attack of the Hastily Tacked On Explanation that blames nuclear energy for creating the monsters. Now, this coming at the tail end of the 50s makes sense, because essentially this movie is a cheap and poorly acted cash-in on the monster, or the monster / atomic monster genre that was big, throughout the 50s into the early 60s. This takes a lot. The first time I watched this was actually recently, and I was very angry that I had to watch this again for the purpose of doing the review. I thought it was a Creature from the Black Lagoon ripoff. Then I realized it's just a ripoff of all monster movies in general. So yeah, like I said, this is a cheap cash-in, cheaply made monster movie because they know that was selling at the time. And that's not really the reason that I hate this movie. I hate it because it's boring. We've all seen, cheap cash grab movies, or, movies with subpar plots or monsters that look like crap. And, some of them are actually enjoyable, but the cardinal sin of movies, or for me at least, is that they can't be boring. Because I should never be sitting down watching a movie that's barely an hour long and being like, oh God, when is it over? Which I found myself doing 4 or 5 times during the course of this movie. So, that's going to be about it. Big thumbs down. Do not recommend for this one. They didn't even renew the copyright, so this movie is in the public domain. You could watch it on YouTube if you don't have the Treeline Films 50 movie set. But like I said, don't bother. It sucks. If you enjoyed this video, just ask you to leave a like, subscribe to my channel. I will be chugging along. And speaking of, I actually have to pull the next 2 movies. And these next 2 will bring me up to 10 thus far in the 50 movie set. So we'll be about 20% of the way there. Alright, just grab one here. We have The Mad Monster from 1942. And Nosferatu from 1922. So we're going way back on that one. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching. Like I said, leave a like, leave a comment of if you've seen this movie, what are your thoughts on it. Subscribe to the channel for more, and have a good night. Thank you.